Pixel Warfare is back. It's the pinnacle of platformers versus the king of collectathons. Last time, we compared the two worst games of all time. So today, we're comparing the two best games of all time. In one corner, we have a classic bombastic masterpiece of three-dimensional gaming.
The pepperoni to my papa's pizzeria. The Joe Pesci to my Martin Scorsese.
The whoa, the woohoo, and dare I say, the yippee! Super Mario motherfucking 64! But in the other corner, we have a replayable, adorable, and enchanting attempt at fine-tuning the genre blueprint. The ABO to my, oh dear god, no.
To my... The
Bulgy to my interspecific fantasy, Banjo Kazooie. Before we dive in, make sure to like, dislike, share, download, clip, save, report, and show transcripts so you don't miss a single episode of Cordelia James. And I ain't talking about that sweet cartoon boy. Like every other Nintendo project, Super Mario 64 is secretly a horror game. As soon as you boot up a save file, you're greeted with the eerie silence of an empty courtyard, a reminder of how truly alone you are in the world. There isn't a single soul in sight, just an unsettling message from your spectral girlfriend. Inside the castle, you meet a small man who's perpetually phasing in and out of reality, locked between dimensions. He explains that his entire species is trapped within the walls, and that the only way to save them is to find the stars hidden throughout the abstract geometric nightmare worlds of this unnerving funhouse.
It was scary.
Everything feels very dreamlike, from the mysterious wall portals to the synth and string-heavy soundtrack, namely the water theme, which sounds as if David Bowie and Kate Bush had a Japanese baby, a baby that had the power to disassociate you into a warm jacuzzi on a cold winter night. You might encounter the occasional retired suicide bomber, but there's still a subtle emptiness and melancholy tone beneath the surface.
You're on Banjo Kazooie and it's the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse out here.
Every world you visit has someone to talk to, whether that's a boss, ally, enemy, bucket, or even a son of a bitch collectible. Instead of controlling a static blue-eyed white man, you're dealing with gaming's very first opposite-sex friendship between a Bee-Jizz drinking himbo and an edgy Tumblr Breagle with manic depressive disorder. Mario may dream of carb-heavy pasta, but Kazooie dreams of spreading mental illness. The soundtrack is very marimba-y and horny, so everything feels very lighthearted and perky. If Mario is a psychedelic funk jazz Neverland, Banjo is a campy bluegrass polka utopia. In this semi-final act, you have to choose between saving your sister, a washing machine, or a fucking doll. Isn't that just zany?
At least the doll will let me brush her hair.
This game not only relishes in, but also ketchups and mustards in its childlike whimsicality and humorous tone for a happier, more relaxing experience. Super Mungio fucking numbers and shit is a game about blizzards and plons doing a funky meat technique. You control Bobbert DeBunko, a middle-class plumber from New Jersey on a quest to defeat the big boy. A simple tale of a damsel in distress who needs a force of pure masculinity to rescue her. But where Mungio says,
"Could I get the plastic straw?"
Banjo says, which roughly translates to, "Anyone got some honey?" In Bronky Kabunky, an evil britch has captured your dear sister. Give me some of them sugar crisps. What I meant to say was dear sister, thus subverting the genre trope from lover to sibling, which really aren't that different when you think about it. It's easier to remain engaged with this game's story because of its incredibly charismatic villain whose unique motive is fueled by insecurity instead of generic tyranny. Yeah, you know what time it is. Let's get it. Damn, this bitch is moody. Got me off duty, cause she wants my sister's beauty. Powering her nullifier with my girlish hootie. Juicy booty bucking titties got me acting loopy. Peach's Castle is a lot like the South Korean boy band iKON because it's an icon of gaming hub worlds.
Ew, this is so cringe. Guilty.
You got the happy cloud walls and chessboard floors designed by Anya Taylor-Joy, the metal-plated torch-covered basement sex dungeon, and who could forget the courtyard of abandoned franchises? But Grunty's Lair is a living, breathing entity, loaded with various enemies, passageways, and hidden collectibles. This multi-floored mountainside tower stands out above its competitor as a level of its own. Instead of climbing a monotonous set of winding stairs and running out of breath because let's face it, you're just not very athletic for your age, you fat little bitch. You're climbing vine-covered boulders, cobweb lava-coated caverns, marbled cenotes, and various narcissistic monuments. And you can't just Bob Ross your way through life like a pussy-ass motherfucker. You have to hunt down the jigsaw portraits that open each level, like the joyless and soyless, meat-smoking, oyster-slurping, traditionally masculine provider, which lends itself to the game's overarching theme of exploration. What Banjo lacks in stars and coins, it makes up for with jiggies and notes. And what Mario lacks in empty honeycombs and mumbo tokens,
you ugly.
it makes up for with some bullshit wooden log that's more slippery than an incel's bedroom floor. Then you have your typical body modifications like the heroin-esque red feathers that you jam into your skin to fly, or the coochie ammunition that you chugga pew 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 from your big fat bird vajinjo. Both games' collectibles are well dispersed across their levels and require a variety of seeking, platforming, and fighting to attain. Banjo will have you swimming through hoops within Moby Dick's stomach, protecting sentient light bulbs from a trio of bridge trolls,
I'm gonna say the N-word,
and feeding over a dozen caterpillars to a giant eagle. Mario will have you lodging the middle prong of your N64 controller into the rectum of your mortal enemy at Mach speed because his stupid fucking snowman's abdomen won't roll into his thick-ass dome. Oh, you can't use shortcuts? Okay. But the artificial gameplay extension that comes from being kicked out of a stage after collecting a star is not enough to fool me from giving this point to Grizzly Magoo. You know what they say, a bird in the hand is worth two in the abyss. That's my son! Mario's got a tight-knit cast of goofy little goobers that range from friendly and helpful, who told how you say, this fatty boy got more fatigué, to obnoxious and vile, like Bukkake, the cap-thieving primate. Or is it Yukiki? Nah, that's the director of Thor.
Not to my receding hairline.
Or Mips, a wily little coney twat who's late for his tea party despite not having any arms.
My personal favorite has to be Blue Guy because it kickstarted the Jurassic Park collaboration seen later in the series.
But the game's most emotionally complex character is only found after collecting every single star. A hideous reject orphan by the name of Green Dinosaur, who reveals that life is a simulation before shoving 120 mushrooms up your butthole and promptly ending his life. What twisted bastard thought these would be useful after a tick-tock clock? Come on, game developers, what are you doing? What are you, fucking the dog, huh? Screwing the pooch? What are you, pounding the hound? Nutting in the mutt? What are you, reaching cloud nine with a canine? Fuck. But they're far and few between and lack the nuance seen in Banjo. There's a depressed captain who's lost his treasure, a gluttonous absentee father seeking a worthy sliding opponent, a dolphin trapped under an anchor, a sphinx with an itchy nose, there's a snake charmer, a totem pole, a ghost hand, a turtle choir, a shit-eating toilet, there's even a cyborg whale who's been infested with parasitic manga tentacles. Every character has a distinct personality and a voice that I can use as chill hip-hop beats to study or sleep to. More importantly than the side characters, there's your buddy and archetypal mentor, Bottles, who can teleport between worlds through piles of his own feces. And of course, Mumbo Jumbo, the archetypal ally who provides the magic needed to explore parts of levels you otherwise couldn't. Both of these characters are at your side through the majority of the game, giving you a sense of comfort while not being overtly hand-holy. And unlike real-world friendships, these ones don't end in heartbreak and betrayal. Not yet, at least. Mario's one-dimensional cast pales in comparison to the sheer creativity and liveliness of Banjo Kazooie. Symphonic, sick, hypnotic, half psychotic. These are just a few of the adjectives that I use to describe the music in these games. This is the song you hear when I put this image on screen. And if it's not, you're a piece of shit liar and a goddamn commie too while we're at it. Staff Roll is soothing and triumphant. Bowser's theme is intimidating and intense. The pipe-heavy file select is oddly serene, pristine, and dare I say, Listerine. But if we take off our rose-tinted goggles, we see that its soundtrack is artificially complex. Main theme, Snow Mountain, Water, Haunted House, Fire Bubble, Cave Dungeon, Slider. 7 songs are repeated across the game's 15 stages, 3 of which share the same arrangement. Banjo, on the other hand, has a unique theme for each of its 9 worlds. Owl hoots and wolf howls between spooky organ chords, rattling snakes and cawing vultures behind a scorching clarinet riff. Every song matches the tone of its environment and makes use of Foley sounds like dripping sewage, frog croaks, or engine whistles. And that's ignoring the half-chub-inducing dynamic transitions. When you dive underwater, a marimba solo takes over to replicate the sound of submerged audio. Walk up to a crab and the song grows frantic, but near a pirate ship, an accordion mimics a sea shanty. The sheer variety of arrangements make this game more enjoyable than being choked out by your blood fetish girlfriend. You hear that? That's the sound I hear from my closet before I close my eyes at night. Every world has a unique set of creatures that match their environment, which makes each setting feel like a cohesive universe. Mosquitoes and frogs in Bubble Gloop Swamp, mummies and scarabs in Gobi's Valley, gravestones and skeletons in Mad Monster Mansion, ice cubes and snowmen in Freezeezy Peak, blonde boys and opioids in my high school. Wait, What was that?
What the fuck?
Sure, Mario's got a thieving vulture and wiggling cacti in Dry Dry Desert, or ghosts and spiders in Big Boo's Haunt, but where's the lava monster in Lethal Lava Land? The stone golems in Tall Tall Mountain? The evil cherubs in Rainbow Ride? Mario's catalog of foes are certainly more memorable, but that's because they're seen in every other entry in the series. And though this early rendition of a thwomp reminds me of a blueberry jelly cube, I can't forgive Miyamoto for putting Manson family members Fuck Ya Chuck Ya and Heave Ho Slut Bag in Wet Dry World, aka the relationship dynamic between me and my girlfriend respectively. At the end of the day, you can tell the artist poured their soul into these critters simply from the urge I have to store them in a cute little terrarium. Who wouldn't want a fishbowl of unagi? But between the cartoony eyeballs and design variety, this point would have to go to the Baron Bird once again. Conga only throws oranges because he's afraid you'll steal his tree. Womp King's a victim of slave labor at the hands of the Mushroom Kingdom. Cubic Klaus only tries to turn you into grizzly pate after being called a slur. Irock's upset that you've invaded his tomb. Wiggler's angry that you flooded his house. It is here that you realize that video games are the reason skinny white boys are the way they are. Sure, it's fun to break the tailbone of an imperialist, or punch the air like a psychiatric patient.
Who are you talking to?
He can't see me unless I want him to.
But the average fast food manager is more of a threat than these dweebs. It's not until you get to the final... Stop! Knock it off! But despite Grunty's clever use of land and air combat, Bowser cleverly grows stronger each time you fight him. Sure, it gets repetitive, but until this game's release, all you did was play Leapfrog. Now you're swinging him around by the dick butt like the Swiss cyborg. Mario also nails its suspense by name-dropping the bosses in the title of their respective missions, giving the player a sense of anticipation when platforming to the top to reach them. In Banjo, you fall in a hole and suddenly there's an AC/DC song lunging towards you, whom I almost forgot about because gold feathers melt him in like 3 seconds. This one goes to the pokey little flap biscuit. Claw swipe, forward roll, rat-a-tat-tap, feathery flap, talon trot, beak buster. No, these aren't just things I do with my stepsister, Rubber Ducky. They're the various maneuvers of our favorite furry power couple. Unfortunately, platforming is incredibly linear, as every puzzle has a specific answer, whether that's a jump pad, backflip, or a pair of blister-inducing rubber boots. Each move halts your forward momentum too, hampering your pace. And rolling isn't continuous like in good video games. So if you want to get anywhere before shriveling like a prune, you have to hold the trigger button down until you have carpal tunnel syndrome. Mario says, "Fuck you think this is, a prison?" and gives complete freedom to the player by focusing on omnidirectional travel. There's the triple jump, long jump, forward dive, sweep kick, baby crawl, and side flip amongst others. Every action is a tool in your arsenal that you can use however and whenever you want.
Here we go!
Both characters swim, fly, and climb trees, but asking Banjo to be precise is like asking a blind man with no arms to shoot a moving target with his asshole. Handling this plumber feels so fluid and bouncy that I have to give him another point. The Stonehenge ruins and village huts, the winding scarf and Christmas tree, the foggy well and haunted church. If the levels in Banjo Kazooie had titties, let's just say they'd be all out of milk by the time I was done with them. Mario's courses aren't as visually impressive, but they're still ripe with charming landmarks like Dory's Cavern, the volcano, and the ancient pyramid. And then you have the basement, which is just, what the actual fuck? Something about unconventional rooms with shallow pools of water really rustle my jimmies for some reason. These courses also subtly teach the player different game mechanics that will be used in later levels. Even the floating travelator of Bowser in the Sky is reminiscent of the magic carpets in Rainbow Ride. Sure, those schluer slugs train you for them cluck fuckers, and the snowman hats prepare you for Grunty's airborne duel. But these moments simply aren't as prominent and lack the platforming nuance seen in their opponent. The order in which you tackle these levels is restrictive too, as moves are taught on a stage-to-stage basis. And because the final note door requires 810 out of a possible 900 notes, you can't skip a single world. In contrast, you only need 70 of the game's 120 stars in Mario. Banjo's world themes are somewhat derivative as well. Except in Bubble Gloop, where you traverse a swamp of Gamer Girl bathwater instead of scalding lava. But do you know what Mario has that Banjo doesn't? Other than a living sibling. A pride level, obviously. Remind me to edit that out when the month is over. Quite frankly, Banjo lacks the challenge that men and women with them honkin' donkers want to torture themselves with. Alright, cool. You got a piranha-infested swamp, some freezing ponds, scalding quicksand, and some fucking Mountain G fuel. 1 point of damage? That's fucking baby shit. Now look at Mario. Neither of these games are exceptionally hard, but Mario's difficulty adjusts to the player's skill level. Just as an insecure newbie might make a rookie mistake, a confident veteran might try something new and fall off the stage. Fuck. Once you remember the collectible locations in Banjo, you're untouchable and there's no room for innovation. Pair that with temporary invincibility, and the only way you're gonna die is by falling into the engine room's pit or off the side of the Lindsay Creek Giant in Dick Cock Wood. Both of these games are responsible for the rise of gender dysphoria in North America due to their portrayal of physical transformation. But instead of conditioning us with he/he, ye/ho, or my other accepted neopronouns, we are dealing with matter-altering baseball caps and the sorcery of a woman-phobic Skeletor shaman. Mario's temporary abilities include flight, weight, and intangibility, whereas Banjo can shapeshift into different animals like a termite, crocodile, walrus, bee, pumpkin, and morbidly obese pile of flesh. Between Jiggies, Jinjos, Cheeto Pages, and empty honeycombs, the abilities in Banjo account for about 12% of the game's completion, in comparison to Mario's 10% usage rate, which is a pretty even split. The only reason Banjo gets this point is because you get to destroy the ecosystem's food chain by chowing down on some delicious grumblies, while embarrassing Del from Animal Crossing in the process. I'd also just personally prefer to change my species at will instead of my skin tone, as Ariana Grande already has that covered. Nobody can deny the impact that Super Mario 64 had on the gaming industry. It wasn't the first 3D game to exist, but it certainly was the first to actually matter. Classic platformers like Anubis 2, Winx Club, and Blues Brothers 2000 wouldn't even exist without the inspiration of our favorite Mamma Mia. But while this game is a certified masterpiece, it's also an absolute piece of dog shit that sucks the snot out of a blobfish taint.
What do you think of that?
Banjo might not be as challenging or smooth to handle, but it wipes the floor, or should I say the ass. It wipes its ass on the floor in every other field. Sure, it had 2 years on its predecessor, but I have 2 inches on my girlfriend's ex, so what does that say about the national average? Both of these games have more polish than a drag queen's nails and are more addictive than a prostate milking, but I think the biggest takeaway is that they excel in different ways. Mario is more mechanically impressive, whereas Banjo is more aesthetically impressive. If you were to blend the strengths of both, you'd have the perfect game on your hands, which is why the winner of this battle is none other than Banjo-Tooie. Bigger levels, better bosses, and way more gameplay variety than these 2 stupid-ass games. I'm just fucking with ya. It's actually Super Mario Odyssey! Let's go! In Star Allies, the boss fights felt as stale as a biscuit that's been sitting in your cupboard since last Tuesday, innit? Who created Fecto Elf, what the fuck's your name? Now it's time to talk about mouthful mode, which is exactly what happens when I visit your dad's house.